Joining me now, Birmingham, Alabama Mayor Randall Woodfin, a Democrat, and a Morehouse alum who attended the commencement today. Mayor Woodfin, thank you, first of all, for joining us again. First, your observations from today's speech by the president.
Well, Rev, thanks for having me on. I think it's important that I congratulate and acknowledge the Morehouse graduates who are now Morehouse men in the class of 2024. As the president said, today was earned, not given. These young men missed their high school graduation. They started their freshman year behind computer screens. And so their hard-fought last four-year journey is to be commended. And I want to publicly congratulate the class of 2024 Morehouse College.
I think...
I will say this.
Go ahead.
I will say this. I think the speech, the timing of the speech was perfect, related to reminding Black men that their faith journey is extremely important. Before Morehouse College was, one of the names Morehouse College had before it was Morehouse College was Atlanta Baptist College. And so the talk he gave today in this commencement speech relating to his faith journey, relating to men of Morehouse and now Morehouse men's faith journey, I thought that was relevant, connecting with these young men, reminding them of their ups and downs, peaks and valleys, that through life, not just the last 4 years, but beyond, to be reminded of their faith journey and how that prepares them for challenges that will lie ahead, but they can overcome them just like they did these past 4 years.
No, I took note. He was very much into inspiring them to go forward, but he also went down a list of things that he has supported, like fighting for the George Floyd bill, fighting voting rights, fighting against the affirmative action being stopped by this Trump-appointed Supreme Court, and fighting DEI. I think that the contrast between he and Trump is something I've pushed, as I've pushed the president on many of the issues, including a ceasefire and including putting more pressure on Netanyahu. It's interesting to me, though, we've not seen similar protests at Trump rallies on this cause when he has said to Netanyahu, finish the job. But let me ask you this. The Biden-Harris campaign is nearing the end of several outreach events aimed at Black voters. Tonight, he's in Detroit ahead of his address to that city's chapter of the NAACP. Polls continue to show some diminished support among Black voters for the president compared to 4 years ago. I often ask what the Biden campaign needs to do in order to regain those voters. But I wonder, as a Southern mayor, what would your constituents lose, in your view, if the president is not successful in November?
I want to put it very plainly, Rev. I grew up in a household that were 4 generations. My great-grandmother, name was Mary McGee. She lived to be 100 years of age. And my great-grandmother was diabetic. And so I remember as a kid and a teenager helping my great-grandmother when she had diabetic episodes, pouring the glass of orange juice, taking the teaspoon, putting sugar in that orange juice, helping my grandmother to drink that orange juice to level her out. It is good to see a president in today's time fight for health care and medicine for our most vulnerable parents, grandparents, in my case, my great-grandmother. And insulin, capping it at $35. He has shown Americans, he has shown Black Americans in all households that as it relates to your health care, he will fight for you to make sure that you don't have to choose between health care and paying for medicine and or paying another bill and keeping the lights on. And so he's taking on Big Pharma. And I think with him not being in office, we not only lose insulin being capped at $35, but the opportunity for more families who are Americans for health care to be manageable, cost-related. And that's just an example. I think we lose this fight that related to, as it relates to other measures that he's taking, marijuana, changing the laws around marijuana. As a lawyer, I've seen so many young people come before courts for possession of marijuana, and it's totally changed their life for the worse. He's rectifying that. Again, rolling back things that have hurt families, rolling back things that have hurt young people, and related to loan forgiveness. Rev, the easiest way I can say it is if we've forgiven loans for farmers, Wall Street, the automotive industry, we can do the same thing for student loans. And so I think this president has real tangible receipts that over the last 3 years, what he's done for all Americans, he's done more in his first 3 years as a president than many presidents combined in 8 years. And so what we would lose is not just good policy, but tangible things that literally improve the quality of life of everyday Americans.
You are mayor in the major city in Alabama, where the voting rights fight really came to international attention, and the voting rights bill was passed. And the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, to try and repair some of the damage the Supreme Court did, President Biden supported. He supported the George Floyd bill. It was the Republicans, the Trump Republicans, that blocked both of them in the House and the Senate, and Biden went ahead and did a George Floyd executive order. Former President Trump at the same time was in Texas last night comparing himself to Lincoln while receiving the endorsement of the National Rifle Association. Again, as mayor of Birmingham, you know all too well the toll gun violence has taken on black communities. Earlier this week, you held a press conference after a series of shootings over a 72-hour period, including 2 children on Mother's Day. When you hear Trump praising the NRA, what goes through your mind, Mr. Mayor?
Well, look, first I can tell you that it's been a tough week here in our city related to gun violence. I'm glad to say that those 2 children survived, but they shouldn't have had to go through that type of trauma, nor their families, particularly on Mother's Day. And so I would say a week later, knowing that the former president speaking in front of the NRA, the question was, how do I feel, Rev? Well, it's sickening. I think as a country related to gun violence, not just in urban cores, but mass shootings as well, as a country, we're the only country where this is an issue. You would think as the nation of the free world, we would have solved this issue by now. But it takes more than the president of the United States. We need men and women in Congress, in both houses, to have the fortitude to take on the NRA, to simply say, at what cost? I think the cost has been more than burdensome for too many American families who have lost a loved one, including my own family, to gun violence, and that there is a better way. But it takes fortitude, and it takes elected officials to stand up to protect lives, particularly the most vulnerable, that being children, as well as our seniors.
Thank you for being with us tonight, Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin.